Last time we saw fine artists bringing their work to album covers. And this time the covers take us somewhere surreal. Sometimes it's oddly beautiful, and sometimes it feels like a fever dream. Today's episode: Paris and their experiments with Bjork and Kanye. Robert Beatty channeling physics into psychedelic art for Tame Impala and The Weeknd. Frederik Heyman using 3D body scans to chronicle Arca's metamorphosis. And in our spotlight, Robert Del Naja from Massive Attack bringing his graffiti aesthetic to Heligoland. Welcome to the Dreamscape Architects. Let's talk about Paris. So it's 1992, and these two guys, Matthias Augustiniak and Michael Amzalak, meet on the first day of school at a French design academy. They immediately get into this intense conversation in the courtyard and just click. Partnership formed right there. Fast forward, and they are working from this windowless studio in Paris' 10th arrondissement. Augustiniak calls it a place for contemplation. There is literally just a skylight. That's their only natural light source. And from this cave-like space, they've spent over 30 years building what they call a factory of images and meaning. Here is what makes them different. They've said that individual images don't really interest them. It's all about what the image contains, all the conversations, stories and experiences that went into making it. Everything they make is a conversation, not just a pretty picture. And their client list is absolutely insane. Yoshi Yamamoto, their first fashion client back in 1993. Nicolas Ghesquière at Balenciaga, Riccardo Tisci at Givenchy, Madonna, and of course the ones we are about to dive into, Bjork and Kanye West. So Bjork's Medúlla in 2004. This is her 5th studio album and she goes completely radical with it. It's almost entirely a cappella, just voices. She's stripping music down to its most fundamental element, the human voice. She's working with beatboxers Razel and Doka Ka, Inuit throat singer Tanya Tagak, and vocal artist Mike Patton. Bjork called it an exploration of muscle, blood and flesh. The cover photo was shot by Ines and Vinut, longtime collaborators. And what you see is Bjork wearing this absolutely wild hair mask. It's created by this Icelandic artist, Shoplifter. Here is a backstory. Shoplifter had displayed this wall mural made of brown braids at ATM Gallery. Bjork sees it, loves it, and invites her to create a hair sculpture for Medúlla. Shoplifter designs this mask to embody the album's darkness and corporeal themes. She wanted something that was literally part of the human body to match the whole voice-only concept. takes an interesting approach here. They frame Bjork against this plain grey field, and the album title appears as a necklace made from dark shiny material shaped like bones. This is crucial, they are turning text into a bodily element. And throughout the packaging, continues this anatomical theme with lettering formed from black bones. So critics describe the result as turning Bjork into a handmade homunculus, half folk spirit, half laboratory sample. It's brilliant because the album visuals do exactly what the music does, strips everything down to something both primal and futuristic. Now Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in 2010. For his 5th studio album, Kanye visits George Condo's New York studio between 8 and 10 times during summer 2010. Together they develop what Condo calls psychological cubism, multiple dimensions and personalities existing within single images. Condo creates 5 paintings total. The main cover shows Kanye being straddled by this armless winged phoenix. Condo described it as between a sphinx, a phoenix, a haunting ghost, and a harpy. Then there is the ballerina painting, and the story behind this is great. During a listening session for Runaway, Condo's wife Anna shows Kanye the slow-motion clip of French dancer Sylvie Guillaume. Kanye immediately connects with it, and he asks for a great ballerina painting, which Kondo interprets as a ballerina toasting, like "let's toast to the scumbags." Beyond that, you've got the cubist portrait of Kanye with mismatched eyes and multiple set of teeth, then a decapitated crowned head pierced by a sword, and another one showing just the crown and sword in a grassy landscape. But here's where Paris becomes essential. They don't just place Kondo's paintings on the cover. They transform them into complete design objects. They create these gold leaf-like ornamental frames around each painting and put them within red fields. They design a custom hand-lettered logo for the internal CD packaging, so the whole package feels like something you'd find in a museum gift shop, but in the best way possible. They are amplifying the album's over-the-top vibe while giving stores multiple covers to cycle through. Each one becomes an instant collectible. But takes it even further. In March 2011, they collaborate with Kanye again to turn these designs into limited edition silk scarves. During the process, explained they created a series of hand-drawn ornamented frames to adorn the Kondo paintings, and then transformed their most striking combinations into silk scarves. 5 different 100% silk twill scarves: Power, Phoenix, Face, Ballerina and Priest. Only 100 of each. They sold out almost immediately. So this collaboration between West, Kondo and Paris showed how album art could even become actual fashion. Now let's talk about Robert Beatty. He has become the one-man psychedelic renaissance of album cover art. Over 100 covers in the past decade. Growing up, he taught himself art by obsessively drawing while watching MTV's Liquid television. He studied Terry Gilliam's animations, just absorbing everything. His breakthrough comes in 2008 with the cover for Challenger by Burning Star Core, where he pioneers this signature digital airbrushing technique. And he's bringing back the aesthetic of 70s airbrush art using the old versions of Photoshop and Illustrator on a decade-old computer. As you see, it works perfectly. He's worked with basically everyone. Kesha, The Flaming Lips, Cage the Elephant, Oneotrix Point Never, The OCs, Real Estate, Neon Indian. The guy is everywhere. He works from the floor-to-ceiling cluttered studio in Lexington that's filled with scavenged electronic equipment. And he approaches each cover with what he calls a weird sense of wonder. The images he creates feel simultaneously nostalgic and futuristic. People compare him to psychedelic masters like Roger Dean, but he's carved out this distinctly contemporary visual language that's all his own. And one of his most famous works, Currents by Tame Impala in 2015. This is Tame Impala's third studio album. Kevin Parker is the Australian multi-instrumentalist behind the whole project. And Currents is the big pivot from guitar-driven psychedelia to synth-heavy production. It all started with the Bee Gees on mushrooms and an obsession with Fleetwood Mac's pristine studio sound. It becomes his most successful release. The album sells 1.3 million copies worldwide. Parker approaches Beatty with this specific scientific concept – vortex shedding. It's this fluid dynamics phenomenon where objects disrupt smooth flows, creating these spiraling eddies. Parker, who studied engineering and astrophysics before forming Tame Impala, he's sharing Instagram posts of physics diagrams. We're talking uniform flow past circular objects and car aerodynamic studies. Beatty takes these mathematical principles and translates them into pure op art. You've got this metallic sphere cutting right through the purple and black lines, and the sphere warps everything into psychedelic swirls of red-orange. Beatty cites 1970s sci-fi designer Franco Grignani as a major influence. Plus, check poster artists like Zdeněk Ziegler and Karel Vatsa. But it's not just homage. He's turned fluid dynamics into the perfect visual metaphor for Parker's sonic transformation. Then we've got The Weeknd's Dawn FM in 2022. This is his 5th studio album, and here is the concept. It's a fictional purgatory radio station broadcasting at 103.5 FM, and listeners are stuck in traffic waiting to reach the light at the end of the tunnel. The whole album explores death, transformation, and redemption through 80s-inspired synth-pop and dance music. For this concept, Beatty creates 5 alternate collector's edition sleeves just for limited CDs and vinyl. His primary motif is the road to the light, and the color are pure late 70s sci-fi airbrush, neon oranges, magentas, and deep starfield blacks. By the way, the liquid chrome logo is a direct nod to FM radio dial badges, the kind Blaupunkt, Pioneer and Alpine used on car stereos in the 70s and 80s. Beatty called it 70s sci-fi retro goodness that still feels timeless, and it looks in perfectly with the album's haunted oldies vibe. There are 5 versions: Sunburst, Mask, Mask with Rings, Mask with Road, and Space Road. Each one became an instant collectible, and fans started hunting down specific versions, trying to collect all 5. And Beatty's sunrise and beam motif carried into the Weeknd store visuals and merch. At the LA show, Beatty is looking around and sees tens of thousands of people wearing his artwork on their shirts. His designs are filling these massive stadium screens. There are even bootleggers on the corners selling knockoff t-shirts with his art. Beatty said he'd never been in a situation where so much of his artwork was literally everywhere, just staring back at him. And now Frederik Heyman. This Belgian digital artist is doing something completely different. His whole studio practice centers on photogrammetry, which he describes as a barrier of duration. You need time to experience 3 dimensions. You can't just glance at it, you have to move through it. Heyman's breakthrough comes with this Korean eyewear brand, Gentle Monster, commissions him to create their 13 campaign. The trilogy of films he produces wins Best Fashion Film at the Berlin Fashion Film Festival. And it establishes his signature, this hyper-detailed digital environments, where literally every pixel is deliberately placed. But let's talk about his work with Arca, the Kick series from 2020 to 2021. The series represents the radical expansion of the Venezuelan producer's entire sonic and visual universe. What starts as a single album evolves into a 5-volume anthology. This is Arca's first major work after publicly coming out as a non-binary trans woman in 2018. And that personal transformation deeply influences the whole series' themes of multiplicity and metamorphosis. Everything is about transformation. Heyman and Arca basically built the entire world that runs through the last 4 albums. The first Kick album was different. Arca worked with Carlota Guerrero and Carlos Saez for that cover. But starting with Kick 2, it's all Heyman's world. Every single image starts the same way, with a full-body 3D scan of Arca. Then Heyman takes that scan and drops it into this incredibly detailed digital world, full of mechanics, animations, animals, and even references to previous album covers. So each cover takes you through the journey. Kick 2 has Arca giving birth to this molten egg. Kick 3 shows her with 2 heads, surrounded by 2-headed skeletons. Kick 4, there is this huge biomechanical creature being constructed on scaffolding. And the last one, Kick 5, ends with this marble-like figure just standing victorious on top of a beast. Arca's body keeps changing from album to album, and the music's doing the same thing, shifting from pop to reggaeton to ambient noise. So everything is transforming together. Heyman says their shared language is speculative fiction that revisits iconic symbols and recycles them into an alternative present. Together they even created a supporting cast, worker bee-like creatures called the Builders, and the mascot named Mima who speaks telepathically. It's like they built their own mythology. Now we move from digital mythologies to something far more tactile – spray paint. Time for our spotlight, Heligoland by Massive Attack. So Massive Attack, the pioneering Bristol-based trip-hop collective. They released their fifth studio album Heligoland in 2010. The album delivers this atmospheric journey through paranoia, societal malaise and political unrest. The cover perfectly captures the band's whole fusion of music and visual art, and it's created by Massive Attack's own Robert Del Naja, working with designer Tom Hingston. It's based on Del Naja's actual paintings. The result is this graffiti-influenced image that feels both raw and mysterious. Del Naja, he was a graffiti artist in Bristol during the 80s. He's actually credited with bringing hip-hop and graffiti culture from the USA to Bristol. So he gives this cover a street art look that perfectly matches Massive Attack's dark, politically charged sound. And it's authentic because it comes from his actual background. But Transport for London actually banned the original poster version on the underground. They insisted the cover image be altered so it wouldn't resemble street art. All because they had this policy not to encourage graffiti. So the authorities literally made them remove drips and fuss from the original image. One more thing about this cover. Everyone knows this album for Paradise Circus, but for me the true central part of this album and the exact representation of the cover is Flat of the Blade, with vocals by Guy Garvey. I'm telling you, play this track and look at the cover. You'll get this feeling that the voice you hear belongs to the character on the cover. Guy Garvey's voice and personality are hardly associated with dark, heavy atmosphere. It's quite the opposite of what he does with Elbow. But surprisingly for this track, it's a 100% match. The ghosty figure, the brooding soundscape, that unexpected voice, it all clicks together perfectly. It's like the cover transforms his voice into something otherworldly. This episode took us through dream worlds, where bodies shift shape, reality bends, and even 2D image feels scary alive. Next time we're going minimal. No psychedelic sprawl and digital excess. Just clean lines, negative space, and radical simplicity. See you there!